Did you know that over 40% of people preparing for a high intensity exam like the MSRA experience crippling anxiety and stress? And this not only affects their performance on the day of the exam, but also it affects their ability to retain the information that they acquire during the exam preparation process. What if I told you that there's a way to turn stress into your greatest ally, and there's a way to channel that stress and anxiety into actionable strategies that ensure that you're not paralyzed by the stress, but you're actually fueled by it? In this video, I'll show you the exact strategies I use to transform anxiety into confidence and focus, and even thrive under pressure. So before we go straight into it, like this video, subscribe if you haven't, and if you've got any questions along the way, please don't forget to leave them in the comment section. Hello everyone, I'm Maro. I'm a medical doctor based in the UK, and over the past couple of weeks I've shared my experience preparing for the MSRA exam, some of the useful tips that I utilized that by the grace of God was able to land me a score of over 600. And in the last few days to weeks, I've gotten quite a number of text messages and emails from colleagues, members of this YouTube community, explaining how overwhelmed they are with regards to preparing for the exam, especially as it is fast approaching. And it's very understandable because I've been in those exact shoes, and that's why I decided to create this video, just to help others like myself navigate the exam preparation process in such a way that they are not crippled by the stress involved, and you're able to channel that stress into specific strategies that give them the confidence that they need to sit for this exam and come out with a great score. MSRA is a big deal. It's an exam that literally has a say in determining not just the trajectory of your career, but also where you will likely settle in the UK, where you raise your family, where you get a house. It may seem little at the time you're writing it, but when you look at the bigger picture, it does have an overwhelming impact in the little details of your life. Little wonder why people feel very stressed about the exam. You're probably juggling work, a busy rota with family commitments and personal commitments, and everyone who's written this exam has been in your shoes. So you're not the first. That should encourage you, because it means that there's certainly a way out of the stress that you're experiencing. The fact that you're feeling overwhelmed doesn't mean that you're not capable. It just means that you care enough to feel stressed by this all-important exam. Remember that at the start of every great achievement is a period of doubt. What makes a difference really is how you respond to that doubt. So we're going to be going straight into some practical tips on how to ensure you are as stress-free as possible while you prepare for this exam. First of all, we're just going to break down the MSRA preparation. Let's simplify this process into manageable steps. That's one important key to reduce the amount of stress you're probably facing right now. So going to my first point, like I mentioned in my previous video, link is probably here or here. One of the most important things to ensure that you're not feeling overwhelmed by the exam preparation process is to establish clear goals. Set simple but clear goals. I go into much detail about that in that video. Just click it when we're done with this video if you haven't watched it before. In addition to setting clear goals, one thing that should always be at the back of your mind as you prepare for this exam is to remember that there is no way on earth that you can know everything. And the goal is not to know everything. There are two major areas you should focus on. Firstly, your weak areas. Secondly, the high yield areas. The good thing is that you can get to know what these two areas compose of just by doing your mini mocks. So at this point, I believe you must have already done a few mini mocks. And this will give you an idea of the areas that you might be struggling with and the areas that are high yield, the topics and the subspecialties that come up very regularly in the question banks and in the mocks. This gives you an idea of what you should spend your time focusing on so that you don't feel overwhelmed. The third point I'm going to mention is something that I've drawn attention to a couple of times. If you know me and you were aware of the time that I was preparing for my own exam, I was dealing with a host of things. So many things are going on in my life. And this was one major thing that I wish more people knew about, because I had a couple of friends who had sent me messages. I've subscribed to MCQ Bank and eMedica and Samsung and so and so and so, and I'm feeling overwhelmed, or I used this and this and this and this question banks and my score still wasn't able to get me an offer. And I'm like, yeah, you're using just too many resources. You do not want to put your brain through that much stress. You don't want to jump from resource to resource. Remember, it's quality over quantity. Pick one or two question banks that you feel comfortable with, you feel confident about, and stick with them. Don't stress yourself by having too many question banks to juggle. Two question banks and a few adjunct materials like the UKFPO or the MSRA practice papers and Oxford HJTs. Those should do. This not only ensures that your target isn't overwhelming, because if you got 3 question banks to cover, you'll probably be targeting covering up to 7,000 or 6,000 questions within your exam preparation period, and that is a huge target. And also, you do not want to impede your recall process during the exam by having too many resources to shuffle through in your mind. Now, right? We know that when it comes to exam stress and anxiety, the major root of all the tension and panic is feeling ill-equipped to manage the limited time you've got in such a way that you're able to cover all that you need to cover before the D-Day. And that's where time management comes in. This is like the elephant in the room. It's the hardest part, and it's one of the major reasons for the stress and anxiety related to your exam preparation. If you're balancing work, life, study, it can feel like 24 hours is just not enough for you in a day. But here is a mindset shift. It's not just about the amount of time, but the quality of time. You want to learn how to make use of as little time available to you to achieve as much as possible. So just start small and be consistent. What do I mean by this? For example, even if you can only carve out 30 minutes in the morning to do a couple of questions, over time, these little pockets of study time actually add up. You'll be surprised how much. Speaking from personal experience, while I was preparing for my exam, it was a summer holiday. My kids were home. They were not going to nursery. I had to engage them the entire time that they were awake. And you know how little kids can be. So basically, the only time I had to breathe was when they were sleeping. And by that time, I was exhausted. So I made use of their nap times. I made use of their limited screen time, because they have screen time of like 30 minutes to an hour in a day. So that hour I would use to do a few questions. Imagine combining all of this with job applications and preparation for job interviews and all of that. It was a lot. But acquiring the habit of carving out little blocks of time during the course of your day to achieve as much as you possibly can is always helpful. So don't underestimate a few minutes of time that you can spare to just do a bit of studying. Remember this, progress is progress, no matter how small. You're not competing with anyone else. You're simply building your own path to success. So don't beat yourself up. So I have 3 major tips for effective time management during the course of your preparation. Firstly, set mini goals. When I say set mini goals, what do I mean? Break your day into focused study blocks with clear goals for each. For example, in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to cover 15 questions. So during your 30-minute work break or during the 30-minute nap that your kids are having, you can give yourself a goal to cover 15 to 20 questions. That way, you're able to limit distractions and stay focused. The next point I'm going to talk about is a technique that is quite known. I'd only heard about it prior to my exam, but I didn't do any deep research. However, after going deeper into it, I got to find out that this is a very effective study technique. It's a productivity technique, actually. A couple of highly efficient and productive people make use of this. For example, Elon Musk, I hear. Some of you may have heard of it before. I've made up my mind that in my next exams, I'm definitely going to make use of this study technique. It's called the Pomodoro technique, and it involves making use of a timer. You're just going to set up a 25-minute timer. During this 25-minute period, you're going to remain focused and undistracted. And once the timer goes out, you've got a 5-minute break. And at the end of the 5-minute break, you start another 25-minute timer. So this just ensures you've got periods of focus and periods of rest. It has been shown to be highly effective, especially for people with ADHD. But even people without ADHD benefit immensely from it. It helps you to remain disciplined, focused, and undistracted as much as possible. And once you've had about 4 cycles of such, you'll see how much you've been able to cover in 100 minutes. So it's something that I think you should do a bit of research into and give it a try if you can. I'll definitely recommend it. Next, with regards to managing your time effectively, is avoid jumping from topic to topic within a short period of time. Focusing on one topic at a time maximizes your efficiency, especially when you know you're someone that's very prone to anxiety and stress and you're not able to utilize your time very effectively. This is one major hack. Do one topic at a time. That way, you're able to learn about concepts relating to that subspecialty faster because you're coming across them in rapid succession. Pick up and retain the information more efficiently rather than if you were frequently coming across different topics per question. So we'll come to the main focus of this video: stress. What are some practical tips for managing stress while you prepare for this exam? One of the best ways to combat stress is to shift your focus. You need a mindset shift. You want to focus on progress, not necessarily perfection. You want to learn how to celebrate small wins. So, for example, for every 100 questions you cover, you want to celebrate that. You want to give yourself a pat on the back. For every new concept you've been able to teach yourself, you want to take note of that and celebrate it as well. All these have a cumulative effect, releasing endorphins, which we know is a neurochemical that is very effective in fighting stress. You also want to practice gratitude. Research has shown that for students preparing for exams, gratitude has been shown objectively to reduce exam-related negativity and anxiety. So if it means journaling or sharing one or two things you're grateful for per day with a friend, with a colleague, in prayer, just having that state of constant gratitude, focusing on things that you're grateful for rather than on the negatives or on the pressures that you're facing. This can also help to relieve stress incredibly. Another part of reframing your mindset is by visualizing success. So you want to imagine that email that you received from Oriel. Dear doctor, I'm pleased to inform you that you've gotten an offer at so and so place in so and so specialty. Visit your Oriel account to accept or hold this offer. Picture that. That does wonders for the mind. These next two things I'm going to mention, even though they're highly underestimated, they have shown great outcome with the people that have utilized them. They are incredibly old, incredibly intrinsic to medical school. I'm sure you made use of them when you were in school. It's flashcards and mnemonics. They are quick, easy references. There's some things that you just cannot reason out. There's some concepts that you cannot rationalize, and you will need to make use of mnemonics. So, for example, when it comes to enzyme inhibitors and inducers, you just can't rationalize St. John's words as an enzyme inducer. They're just some things that make life easier. Make use of them. Make use of your flashcards. All these space repetition apps, all these things that help to create systems that make information retrieval more efficient for you. Make use of them. It helps to reduce the burden of the examination preparation process. Building a supportive environment for yourself. Get a quiet room, a dedicated space for study. Limit distractions. Social media, TikTok, Instagram, Netflix, Amazon Prime. If it means blocking certain websites, deleting certain social media apps, unsubscribing from some TV apps. For the time being, it's a temporary sacrifice. It's something. Lean on your support system. God placed certain people in your life, your family, friends, for such a time as this. So when you're extremely stressed, when you're looking for someone to talk to, don't bottle it up. Share some of the things that are stressing you with regards to your exam preparation, with combining it with work and family and all of that. They might just give you a fresh perspective to things. They might give you a word of encouragement that just makes everything better. Please make use of your support system and stay accountable. Get a study buddy. If you're not someone who does well with having a study partner, you can have another friend or colleague who's also sitting the exam. You may not have to study together on a day-to-day basis, but you can give yourself goals. So, for example, if both of you can decide that over the next week, we're going to cover cardiology and ophthalmology, and by the weekend, we'll do 2 mini mocks and we'll share our scores with each other. Just having someone that you're doing the journey with can significantly reduce the amount of stress that you're facing. The next tips I'm going to share, they're so key because they involve your body and your mind. Rest, sleep, your 7 to 8 hours of sleep daily. Do not neglect it. As much as people say sleep is for the weak, please, sleep is very important to ensure that your brain functions optimally. You may think that you've loaded up on enough caffeine and energy drinks, so you're studying, you're doing 5 hours in the night, and you feel like, I've covered 3 specialties. I've done ophthalmology this night, I've done ENT. Unfortunately, you may not realize until it's too late that the information you thought you were acquiring during those times of sleep deprivation, they just didn't stick. You thought you were studying, but on the exam day, you will really struggle to access the information, and you may be faced with confusion, and that confusion can make you feel even more anxious and just impair your overall performance. So it's a downward spiral, really, when you're studying in a sleep deprived state. So please rest well, rest your body, rest your mind. Avoid too much caffeine. We all know that caffeine and caffeinated drinks have been shown to increase anxiety, increase palpitations, increase stress levels. So you don't want to subject yourself to that. Some people cannot avoid it completely. So just avoid too much of it. In regards to taking care of your body and mind, what if I told you that the weekend before my exam, I actually went out with my family, went to another city, went sightseeing. At this point, I had not covered all that I needed to cover. But like I've mentioned several times before, the goal is progress, not perfection. There is no way you will know everything, and that is not the aim of preparation for this exam. Prioritize the state of your mind, prioritize your body, because those are the only tools you've got to prepare and sit for this exam effectively. Those 2 days, I did not touch any question bank, no book, no Oxford handbook, nothing. I just detached from the exam, and words cannot express how much of an impact that had on my mind in preparation for the last lap for the exam. When I came back, I felt so refreshed. I felt rejuvenated. I felt like super confident. Even though I knew I had not covered all that I needed to cover, I felt even more confident than I did before I went on the trip. There's sometimes that you feel extremely overwhelmed. It might just be that is the point that you do need to detach from this entire examination, your exam preparation process, and just take a breather. Another important tip is to accept what you cannot control. Instead of focusing on what you cannot control, focus on what you can. Instead of focusing on the time you've lost, focus on the time that you have and what you can do with that time. Don't beat yourself up about things that are outside of your control. You're just making yourself more stressed out. Let go of perfection. No one knows everything. Practice self-compassion. Be kind to yourself. Imagine you have a friend who is probably in the same shoes as you. The person is preparing for an exam, is feeling overwhelmed, limited time, high stakes exam, and you want to give a word of encouragement and advice. What will you tell the person? Now say that to yourself. Encourage yourself. Give yourself a pat on the back. Remind yourself of how far you have come. You're a doctor, for crying out loud. You have overcome so many seemingly insurmountable hurdles in the past. This is just one of them, one of many. And before you know it, this will soon be in the past. Just let yourself breathe and be kind to yourself. Remind yourself of your purpose. What is your why? Why are you writing this exam? What goal do you have in mind? You're your biggest cheerleader. You don't want to be the source of stress for yourself. You don't want to be hard on yourself. You want to be the reason why you are not feeling overwhelmed. So lean into the strength that God gives, God supplies, and be kind to yourself. Like 3 days leading up to my exam, I had a job interview for a non-clinical role. It was a health tech role. So I had to study tech-related stuff, admin and management-related stuff, in the midst of studying for my MSRA exam. I literally paused all my MSRA stuff so that I could prepare for that interview. So you can imagine the kind of stress that I was facing. But being able to apply some of these tips that I shared, having clear goals, limiting distractions, treating my mind and my body right, and not beating myself up, all of these helped immensely to be able to balance all of these responsibilities that I had. So I believe that if I could do it, by the grace of God, you certainly can as well. The MSRA, to be very honest, is tough, but so are you. Remember why you started this journey. What is waiting for you on the other side? Your dreams, your goals, they're all worth fighting for. Yes, the road is challenging, but you're not the first to have gotten on this road, and you won't be the last. So don't beat yourself up. Don't let yourself carry a burden that you were never meant to carry alone. Trust God, work hard, do the best that you can. Don't compete with anybody. You don't have to be perfect. You just have to keep going. I hope you did find this helpful, and I hope you've been able to come away with some practical tips to help you overcome the stress and anxiety that's peculiar to this journey. I've got some other helpful videos. I believe they'll be invaluable in providing guidance and support as you navigate this phase of your career in the UK. I'm glad you watched up until this point. I wish you the very best. If you got any questions, please, you can either email me, leave them in the comments. I'm more than happy to help, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye.